We've got two virtual speakers this afternoon, speaking to us remotely. And the first one is from SANLIC. I should have written down what SANLIC stands for, but I'm hoping that Zane will tell you what SANLIC stands for. It's a consortium. And our facilitator for this session is Cindy Gule from the Law Library. The next speaker after Zane will be Tameka Mantola from the Research Office, Manager of Research Administration, and thank you, Castro. And then I'll be your third speaker, and I am the Principal Librarian of Digital Scholarship.
The transformative agreements basically are the contracts that we negotiated on behalf of academic libraries. So the whole purpose was to repurpose the subscription fee that was previously meant for reading only to include the open access publishing. Reason being that there were challenges when it comes to open access publishing. There were issues with avenues that were limited, and the cost of publishing was very high. So our researchers could not publish open access because of those challenges. So the challenges that I have mentioned also included the copyright laws, whereby our researchers could not share their research with the wider audience. So the copyright was residing with the publisher, which was limiting. And also the issue of publishing behind the paywall was restricting the readers. You may find that the readers would want to access a certain article, but if they are not inside their institution, they were struggling and they would be asked to pay a certain amount to access a certain article. So these are the issues that the transformative agreements were trying to resolve. Just to take you a little bit backwards, just to give you a history of what has been happening in regards with open access. So this is the data that we got from OpenCookie. So OpenCookie, what it does, it's a dashboard that compares different countries. So you can just go into the dashboard just to check what is happening with South Africa and with the institution as well. So what we have found out was that between 2020 and 2023, the open access publishing was 52%, whereas the hybrid publishing was 27%. So these are the documents from 2020 to 2023 inclusively. And as you can see that, let me just limit this. As you can see, the closed articles were at 45%. So the transformative agreements are trying to resolve this issue, whereby the articles that are being published, especially with the taxpayers' money, are being locked behind the paywall and not giving ordinary citizens an access to read. Let's just quickly check the data here before the transformative agreements and after the transformative agreements. As you can see there in 2019, the articles that were behind the paywall were 41%, and the publishing in open access was just above 20%. And after the transformative agreements, which started in 2021, I'm not going to count the COVID period because most of the publishing, the articles were made open access so that people can have access to those articles without being restricted by any issues, because they were trying to resolve the COVID issue. So from 2021, then we started with the transformative agreements. As you can see on this report, this is 2023, but you can see the growth of open access is still, not that much as we expected, because we started with the transformative agreements in 2021. We would expect that the open access publishing would be higher than 36%, but it's still relatively very low. So this is the South African research output.
So you have got 5 minutes.
Hello?
Hello, you've got 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. So let me just quickly rush. I wanted to show you the overview of Rhodes University as well. So this is the data that we got, showing that 59% of articles are still behind closed paywall. And this is the data from 2020 to 2023. Just to fast forward, there's a growth in 2023 of open access publishing. This is Rhodes University, a comparison between 2021 and 2023. You can see that the open access publishing is really taking place, but not so much. So what we have done, we conducted the data because we wanted to know the trends in publishing between 2014 and 2019 before we started with the transformative agreements. What we discovered was that 62% of the articles by South African researchers was published behind the paywall. So what we did, then we started with the negotiations of transformative agreements, trying to address the read access, the open access publishing, and to contain some costs, because we understand that institutions are suffering in terms of budget cuts, and also to include the social justice, which was meant to address the issues of researchers who are coming from the global south, who are not skilled enough to do the research. So we have negotiated 14 transformative agreements. This year, we have signed the big Taylor and Francis publisher, and we have increased the open access publishing venues to over 80%. As you can see on the chart, on those images that are put on my right-hand side, the transformative agreement are making up to 60% of the venues for researchers to publish in. And the gold one are those gold journals that are not part of the transformative agreements. Currently, where we are sitting now, we are sitting at 37% of articles that are still behind closed wall, and we have managed to open up. We managed to open up about 60% of articles. These are the agreements that we have, and the ones that I highlighted in red, those are the ones that Rhodes subscribe to. So if you're a researcher and you want to publish, please consult the library. They will tell you which journals are eligible for you to publish in. And these agreements, they have terms and conditions whereby you can publish a certain number of articles in an agreement, or you can publish like an unlimited number of articles. For example, Emerald, the cap this year is 165, and we are almost over that 165 before the end of the year. So if you want to know more about this, I have provided the link, and the library has access to these agreements. Just one thing that I wanted to highlight is the research output from Rhodes University that has been published using the transformative agreements. As you can see, there is a growth in 2024, and we are just still counting half of the year. It's not even December at this moment, but we can see that at least the researchers are taking up these opportunities, because we are sitting at 81%. And we can see that Taylor and Francis, which was introduced this year, is the one that Rhodes University researchers are using mostly to publish their articles. So we have this web page where you can read more about the transformative agreements, and there is a link there available. And one question that people always ask, who is eligible to publish in these agreements? So the corresponding author is the one who is eligible to be funded by the transformative agreements. So if you are co-authoring with other researchers from other institutions, just bear in mind that you need to be the corresponding author to benefit from these agreements, even if you are not a principal investigator. And please use your institutional email for identification. Do not use the Gmail account. Is open access worth it? Yes, it is worth it. Yes, it is worth it. And I'm going to share these slides, but I just want to say that open access increases visibility.
Your time
Yes.
is up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Should I wait for questions or the questions will come later?
Hi, Zoni. It's Debbie speaking
Hi.
again. Hi, that was
Yes.
that was a wonderful presentation. We're hoping that you're able to stay with us until the end of the session so that we can answer questions after the other two speakers. Will that be okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks
I'll
a
do
lot.
that.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Okay, Tameka, thank you.
Thank you, Zane. I think Zane has given an excellent overview and has made my job very easy. So I think my role now is going to be coming in and talking about internal processes when it comes to article processing fees and transformative agreements. The cover of my presentation, you will see it's featuring a collection of our research reports from previous years. This is a document that we're very proud of in the research office. We are in the last stages of production for the current one, which is a 2023. So we, at the end of my slide, I've got a link where you will be able to view all of these reports, and the 2023 one will come in at the end of November. While I was preparing this, I thought I'd just give a background into the work that comes to transformative agreements, the APCs. Oh, sorry. I want to press and then I'll tell you. Okay, it's working. So I thought it's better to give an overview just to talk about how this comes about and linking it to the work that we do in the research office. So Rhodes University, together with other universities, they are expected by government, Department of Higher Education and Training, DHET, to allocate, to submit our publications for allocation of subsidy each year. So that is the main part of the job that we do in my office. We collect the research outputs of the university and we submit it to DHET. And with this process, this vital process has direct influence on the amount of funding we get each year from government for subsidy. So it's quite important. There's three categories. There's journals, there's books and book chapters, and there's conference proceedings. I guess the theme will focus mainly on the journal publications. There was a speaker before that spoke about creative outputs. Fortunately, creative outputs are also funded now under a separate policy to this one. So if you want to know more about that, you can contact me after the presentation on creative outputs. Just to give a percentage share in terms of these three categories, journals, they take about 85% of our submission if we were to translate those into units. So 85% of the units we submit to DHET comes from journals. The 15% will be from, the 10% will be from books, and then the last 5% will be from published conference proceedings. And just to emphasize, when you talk about books, we're talking about the peer-reviewed books and book chapters. This was for my own interest. I just wanted to look at the life cycle of publishing, and I wanted to see where I come in as a research administrator in this process. So there's the creation of the manuscript, and then the submission. So I guess at the time of submission or the creation, we are involved as the office because, as I mentioned earlier, we get queries about whether the journal is credible. Should we publish in it? Is it yet accredited? So we are involved at that stage. But when it comes to the session that we're talking about this afternoon, we come in at a production stage where just before the publication happens. This is at the time where they are asked to give the address of the university for invoicing. They are also asked to give VAT numbers and all that information, the contact person for payments. So this is where we then request that the one thing that we always ask for our researchers is that when you are being given an invoice, please make sure that it's addressed to Rhodes University, not to the individual, because our finance system will not pay. So the invoice needs to say Rhodes University. Okay, so the grant part, now this is where the money is. So Rhodes University, through internal funds, as I said before, we bring in this subsidy through the publications. Now, on the internal side, we are then allocated money from the council funding for various types of research. We give back to research in various forms. We've got rated researcher grants. We've got research council grants. We've got travel and subsistence grants. So this one for article processing charges is just one of the many that we get funded for. So for 2024, we had about 2.5 million allocated to the office. And I think it's important to note, as Zani was saying, that we've used up our transformative agreements, that of that budget, as we are now in October, we've used about 50% of it, which is a good thing compared to previous years where we had run out of that money. So it means the transformative agreements are assisting. I think the other thing that I want to mention on this slide is the fact that because we are dealing with a certain budget, although we might be able to assist, give financial support with the transformative or the APCs, sometimes we cannot pay the full amount. So there is a cap amount of 30,000. So if the journal, because we're dealing with journals that are coming in dollars, British pounds, so we are saying if it's above 30,000, we request that you top it up from other funds within your research projects. But in a case where there's internal institutions or local institutions rather, so in a case of a collaboration where we've got authors from Rhodes and an author from UNISA, it is expected that that invoice should be split between the two universities. So we will request that if it's a 20,000, we ask that UNISA should pay for their share. That is reasonable because UNISA also participates in the system where they get subsidy. So we cannot pay for their share. Although you are the corresponding author who's taking care of the invoice, you should ask your co-author from UNISA to pay for their share. Okay, so in an instance where a transformative agreement is in place, so this is now at a stage where we've done everything, we've given the invoice, but now we are saying, is there a transformative agreement in place for this journal? So if the answer is yes, we then go back to the slides that Zane showed us earlier. Is it 100% coverage? Is it 10%? Is it up to a certain amount? So we ask all those questions. And then when it comes to the publishers, which we have these agreements with, they've got their own processes where they validate the affiliation of the authors. I think the key thing that came across from her presentation was that you should always use your RU email address. So if your email address is there, that's good enough to validate. If you're a student and you use your G email, then that is not correct because it won't identify you as affiliated to Rhodes. So the email that you see at the center there is just an example of what comes to our office after the transformative agreement or the publishers have verified everything. So what you see here is an email saying Professor so-and-so has now published. Can you confirm? Rhodes is such a small university. We know some of our professors off by heart, but if we don't, we go and validate and check that they're affiliated and we press submit, and then that finishes that process. Then that brings me back now to a situation where it comes to our office where it's not part of a transformative agreement, but the journal is debt accredited and the office now needs to come in to cover the APC. So the question that we get asked, who's eligible for this grant? There's me, myself, I'm affiliated with Rhodes, that ticks it, I am eligible. And then my article has been accepted in one of the DHET approved journals. The APC is 30,000 or less. Then that covers the back and forth discussing where you're gonna get the top up. If it's more than 30, as I said, we're gonna request you to find funds somewhere else. What we do here, just to cut off the administrative burden, if the invoice is 50,000 in rands or 40,000, we do not expect you to get another invoice. So once you've confirmed that you are going to top up from a certain grant, we do the internal processes of an IDO, then you pay the balance to our office. Once we get confirmation of that IDO, my time is up, then we are able to process that. Okay, that's the last slide that I have. This one, I just wanted to emphasize something to do with institutional affiliation. This is for my own benefit, working with publications. If the affiliation is not on the paper, then it becomes a struggle for our office to confirm and validate it for subsidy. So affiliation, even in an instance where you move away from Rhodes University and go to another institution, if the research was done while at Rhodes, we still expect affiliation to Rhodes. Same with research associates, same with students that leave to go to industry. You can put your current place, but we need affiliation on the paper. I think that's the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tameka. That was very informative and explains a lot of what goes behind the scenes in the research office. It is a lot of work, and I'm sure a lot of disappointed researchers can now understand why there is a budget and why transformative agreements help a lot going towards stretching that budget of what, 2-point-something million rand? 2.5 million rand in 2024. But yeah, transformative agreements will definitely do help. And I do have a slide that could show and demonstrate how that is taking place, return of investment. Just waiting for, so while I'm waiting for my slides to show, please just a reminder about the online survey or online poll after the previous session, and then also after this particular session. Okay, right, thank you, Alistair. So I've titled our presentation as Rhodes Library, a Transformative Agreement Partner. And I do say can this just come down a little? if it can't, it's okay. Okay. Thank you. I deliberately titled it a transformative agreement partner because we are partners. We are partners with the Research Office and with Sandlick. So I'll put together some slides just to explain a little bit more about transformative agreements and how the library sees its role in this arena. So this definition of a transformative agreement comes from a source called ESAC. They are the ones that started transformative agreements in Europe, and this is transferred through to South Africa and through Sandlick. I hope that I have that correct, but that is the readings and the information that we have received. But transformative agreement is an umbrella term in describing agreements negotiated between institutions, and the institutions are libraries, national and regional consortia. And SANLIC is our regional consortia, our national consortia, who negotiate these agreements. Why do we need these transformative agreements? Well, they are a significant departure from previous standard subscription-based journals. It is something that we talk about quite often in the library. Our researchers write the research. You know, they write the articles, they publish the articles. We have to pay for our researchers to read the articles that they have written. So this is what transformative agreements is all about, is to make the research more open and accessible to everybody else, and including the person who wrote the article, who wrote the research. At the library, or at the university, just a bit of the workflow that takes place. SANLIC negotiates the transformative agreements with the publishers. They look at read and publish, or R&P agreements, and these are listed on the ESAC Transformative Registry. Go and have a look at that registry. It's fascinating. These negotiations are then shared with the university libraries, and in our case, through the Technical Services Department, Wynand, who's spoken this morning, that he is the head of that team. The contracts are then signed between Rhodes University and then also the publisher. Once those contracts have been signed, it is shared with that information, and the contract is shared then with the research office. You can see the partnerships already taking place there. We all work together as a collaborative effort. Here within the library, the transformative agreements are then shared with the librarians, the faculty librarians, and the DSU team, so that we can try and get the information out there as best as we can. And this platform today is one of those times. The question is, how transformative is it? And you've heard Tameka talk about the 30,000 Rand cap. So each transformative agreement comes with its own limitations, if you can call it that, or its own regulations. Sometimes it can be fully open, so there is no need to spend the 30,000 that's been put aside for an article. Other times, the publisher might give a discount or tokens. But whatever way the agreement is negotiated, it does help stretch that budget that the research office has to spend in a particular year. And this year, it was really good to see Tameka give the 50% expenditure already achieved this year. That is a load of savings. And I have a slide to show that a bit more later. From the library side, what we try to do is outreach where we can. And so whenever we have a moment where we can speak at a workshop or a faculty board meeting or a research committee, we speak about the transformative agreements, just to make sure that we say it over and over again, you know, like little Jack Russell, let's just keep tagging away. Eventually, the word will get out more and more that transformative agreements are there for researchers and help researchers. We have a few guides that help navigate the transformative agreements arena on campus. The one guide that you'll find useful is the Choose the Right Journal. And we have already alluded to or spoken about the DHET list. This morning, there were discussions about, you know, is the journal questionable or not? Please come and ask us or the research office to assist you in that regard. The other guide that you might find very useful is the Open Access Publishing Guide. That guide will assist you with your understanding or a deep understanding of the gold route of publishing, which is a fully open access journal. It also encompasses the hybrid journal, where your journal might be offer you the opportunity to publish fully open or as a traditional publication. You have that choice. And then, of course, we talk about a LibGuide for transformative agreements and APCs. This slide is an important slide because it talks about copyright. And when authors sign an agreement with the publisher, they're actually signing away their copyright to that publisher. But in the transformative agreement arena, you do have an option of choosing your own copyright agreement, and that is a Creative Commons agreement. And for more information on the Creative Commons, there's the library, there's the research office, and there's Churchill. There's also this particular website, which is incredibly helpful. This is another session all in itself, copyright, Creative Commons. So if you're interested, we will run workshops and go through it with you. But this particular continuum, which I've taken from Nicola Pallet, is very useful. It shows you which is the most restrictive license that you can choose and which is the least. There are 6 licenses that you can choose. Usually the best one is obviously the least restrictive, which means it's open access to the public as a whole. Okay, you won't see what is on the slide, but this is the kind of information that we do receive from SANLIC, and I'm sure that you do receive the same one to make at the research office. So to help you to see what's on the slide, it is what we call a return of investment in the transformative agreement arena. So the first thing you'll see is what in alphabetical order, we have agreements with 13 of the 14 publishers, by the way, and they're listed in alphabetical order here. Then you'll have the DOI, which stands for Digital Object Identifier. That DOI is unique to your research article and only that. It cannot be shared with another article. The list will provide us with the article title, the item type. Is it a research article? Is it a conference proceeding? I've skipped the other one because it's not really necessary in this arena. The journal title, you will see quite often the same journal appears. Environmental Sciences seems to like the one from Elsevier. Is this a hybrid or fully open journal? So that gives you that kind of information, and you can see a lot of our agreements are with hybrid journals. The author, who are the authors from Rhodes University publishing via transformative agreements and taking advantage of those? This is the important one. Thanks, Gareth. This is last. This is the important one. It's the estimated discount value in US dollars. And to make a say that it's showing the value already in 2024. Faculty, which faculty are taking advantage of transformative agreements, then breaks down to the department and the institute and center. That is, the takeaway from this session is transformative agreements. There are many stakeholders, and you have a large range of support units, the research office, the library, where we can assist you in navigating this arena. So we have 10 minutes or so left for questions, and we're going to invite Zane to join us again for questions that might come our way. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. I think my question will be for Zane or for us amongst ourselves. I was just curious, as we go further in discussing these transformative agreements and choosing publishers, how do we determine which ones to put in these contracts? Are the researchers involved in that process? Do we engage, or is it at a national level?
Okay, maybe I can just answer that from the national level. So what we do, we conduct the data analysis just to check where the South African researchers are publishing. And then we share that with the board members to say, this is where we see that maybe there is a potential of this publisher to become a transformative agreement, because we see like a high number of research outputs that are being published there in that particular publisher. And also we check if our researchers are publishing in open access or closed articles. And then that's one of the criteria that we do.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tameka. Yeah, thank you very much, Tameka and colleagues. Oh. Paparazzi moment.
So I know we're thinking of you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we have an online question.
This question is coming from Tandem Chare. How do transformative agreements influence the funding models for researcher or universities in terms of subsidies received?
I'll attempt that one, but I'm not really clear. So transformative agreements, they come in at a stage where we're doing the payment of article processing fees. But I cannot pinpoint the relationship on subsidy because it's the same thing. So if an article has got about 4 people and then 2 from Rhodes, 2 from external, we still get a 0.5 for subsidy. So the subsidy part does not change. It's only who pays for it. Because, for example, as I understand it, if you're a corresponding author at Rhodes, you've co-authored with someone from UCT, and UCT is part of the transformative agreement, the corresponding author of Rhodes will just go ahead and put in that article for both.
Yes.
So it doesn't really affect to an extent that it gets to subsidy. It's all about the payment, the paying of the APCs.
Thank you very much, Tameka, and thank you very much, Zane. It was very, very interesting session.